I'm going to do 2 uploads today. I found two I wanted to share. First of all, did any of y'all get to view the meteorite that went over? Would have been on the 20th. I was lucky enough, blessed enough to be able to see it. It was amazing. I wouldn't trade that night for anything. It was God sent. It lit the whole sky, the pasture, the house, everything was lit. The sonic boom, the brightness of it, and just sharing it was awesome. And you'll you'll understand later why. I mean, you ask God for things and He answers. Uh, I got a small picture of it. I'll show y'all, and then we'll get into this one. All right, guys. I got a guy named Ed. He's from Carthus Township, Clearfield County, Pennsylvania. Waning crescent was the moon. It was an encounter with a werewolf. Uh, he says, my name is Ed, and I have a possible unexplained experience I would like to share with you. Let me get this thing going right. Everything's kind of slow this morning. The following events occurred in Carthus Township, Clearfield County, Pennsylvania. It was in the fall of 2001. I would have been, he says, 9 years old at the time. He says, we lived down the street from Benton's Market. I can't remember the street name, of course, because it has so long, but we lived before a bend, and it led down to the headquarters of a company that had big red trucks parked there. My father worked on the road, construction job, so at the time it was just my mother and I. She worked at the Permagain product factory in town. This had to have been on a weekend or a school holiday break because we were both home at the same time. I remember hearing a bobcat screams in the woods behind our house all the time. The local wildlife was very diverse, and it's something I would no longer be used to as I live in Pittsburgh now. Anyway, there was a wooded area close by, if not anywhere. We had even witnessed 2 bears in there during the time we had lived there. Seems like a lot of these sightings are where there is a lot of livestock. But I'll never forget the night our dog Lucky went completely ballistic barking at something or someone outside or near our front porch. I remember looking out the window while my mother was asleep and seeing what I first thought was someone else's dog or coyote. I'll never forget what I saw, and I never would have contacted anyone about it until recently I read a few reports of a supposed dogman. I really don't know how to explain it. It didn't see its eyes, but I did see an easily 6 or 7 foot in length canine. It was only visible for a few seconds, but clear as day. The thing was something that stuck out in my mind as it still does to this day. My mom had woken up and gotten off the couch to look with me, and she also saw it. We both still swear to this day what we saw. Its fur was definitely a lot different than any other, mangy looking compared to any other wildlife in the area. We think it was attracted to the food we would leave out for the stray cats in the neighborhood. It actually bounded off after a few seconds. It wasn't upright at all, and it stayed on all fours. But it was taller than any NBA player and moved in a different manner than anything I had ever seen. It had me visibly shaken, and I remember being stunned. My mom called my dad and woke him up and talked to him about it for hours. Neither one of us wanted to go back to bed after that. I remembered it turned into the first time my mother and I stayed up and told stories till 3 a.m. I remember my mom explicitly telling my father that it was unlike anything she had ever seen, and her only friend in town took her claims as skeptical at first, until I was there to confirm what she had saw. You know, when we lived down at my granny's, one of my cousins, he was probably 10 years old at the time, he was playing outside, and my grandpa had raised hogs for a long time, and they had what they called a hog lot. Had a lot of hog houses that ran down through there, and my cousin come running in the house, and he started yelling, I seen a man out there with a mask on. So my grandpa grabs a gun. He kept a gun over the bedroom door on 2 16-penny nails. It was a single shot bolt action 22. So he takes it down, and that was his gun. He killed everything with that, probably even deer. And he ran outside and went down to look, and he came back in, said he didn't see anything. A few days later, they were all out in the yard, and one of the my uncles saw this thing out there, and he said he went out and chased it, and when he went out there, he thought it was a guy with a mask on because there was no hair on the face of it or like on the front part of the scalp, but there was black hair like the middle of the head back. It hung down, and it was real kind of bulky. He said like a weightlifter, and as it was running and he cut it off, he said whatever this thing was, it had a pig head. So from that day forward, he always called it the Pig Man. And there was another guy that lived across from my granny, probably, if I was guessing, a half a mile across the pasture. They also said their son was out feeding their pigs. They raise pigs too. They done it to sell and also butcher. And they said they were feeding one day, and the pigs started fighting and scuffling around, so they were using a hot shot. And whenever this hot shot them, one of the pig things that was in amongst the pigs actually stood up on its hind legs and ran off. They later found out that their daughter had been scared several nights and had told, her sister about it, and they finally ended up telling her mom and dad that they had something at their window that looked like a pig head smashing its face up on the window. And whenever the guy, I know George, he went out, checked the window, and he said there was slobber all over the window or whatever. So whatever this thing was at that time was looking in the windows, and it was eating with the pigs. Had like a pig's face. They said it had a pig snout and everything, but it would actually get on its all fours and blend in with them, and they were actually feeding it. So if you're leaving food out, guys, this thing, they're going to come up and eat what's easy to eat, and if you don't got to hunt for it, it's a lot easier just to go eat it. So always, watch your surroundings. This is one of the ones that was kind of scary to me. I mean, you go outside and you see something come around the corner with a pig head on, it'd be terrifying. But I wanted to share this with you guys. I thought it was a pretty good encounter. Again, leaving food out like that, I don't recommend just leaving your food out. You're going to bring all kinds of wildlife into it. It may not just be those, but it'll be wildlife you don't want, coons and possums, so forth. But it seemed they brought something else in. And it also reminds me of my granny. There was a story that was shared from a friend of mine 50 years later. He had written a letter in to me, and it was it was sad to read it because he had passed, but I was glad to have known what he had seen, because my granny would throw her scraps out the back door, and he actually came around the corner and caught one of these things eating it. I read the letter at what he said he seen, and I'll put the link to that video in the description of this one. I appreciate y'all watching, guys. Got some good stuff coming up. Got some investigations going on. Got some surprises. Hopefully sometime this year, maybe 10 years. I don't know, but no, we got something coming. And you never know. Things change every 10 minutes around here, so we might just surprise you someday, and you won't even know what's coming. But anyways, I appreciate y'all watching. Y'all are our abnormal family. We so blessed to have you. Keep your head on a swivel. Don't be something's dinner, and we'll see you on the next one, guys.